Good evening. Another beautiful Saturday evening. So I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
All right, okay. Oh. So I want to welcome you once more to another beautiful edition of the online crash course for couples. Beautiful one. Beautiful one that we're starting again today. And we thank God for keeping us all to witness another season of grace. And by the way, this is supposed to be the last edition in this crash course. The last edition, the crash course. All right, so okay, Dami, you know what? Let me share my screen from here. I have made some new adjustments, so you can stop sharing. I've done a bit more work of sharing, so let me share from here. All right. So I want to thank everyone who has taken the time to be here. Okay, Dami. Right, so I did some small adjustment to my slides, and I hope we can all see the slide now. All right. Okay. Okay, so welcome again. So can I get 1 or 2 feedbacks? How has the sessions been? Is this third and the last session, because it's supposed to be a crash event. We had announced 3 Saturdays. And this is the last Saturday. And then the next 1.5 to 2 hours thereabout, we will talk extensively about communication in marriage. Communication in marriage. And I also hope that this crash course is very useful, especially for couples who have been married just for maybe less than 2 years. I know that it's useful for people who are also above 2 years time range. So I would like to take 1 or 2 feedbacks, and then we jump straight into our conversation today. So how has the sessions been? What learning curves have you encountered in these sessions? So I'll take only 1 or 2. So today we'll be talking about the basics of marital communication, the very foundation of marital communication. All right, so do we have anyone who want to share? You want to share your thoughts so far, and then we jump straight into the conversation. Basics of marital communication. So the first session, we talk about self-discovery. We talked about the need and necessity for one to know themselves before they go into a relationship. If you don't fully know yourself, you will go into a relationship with, haphazardly and not being sure how best to connect with this person. There are lots of struggles that people have, and I see that come on board, coming to effect in their new relationship. In fact, most of the issues that people have are personal, issues that, have been with us for so long, and then they escape with us into, our relationship. So that's the first session that we had. Can somebody remind me of the second one? What was the second session? We talked about the marriage. Yeah, so we laid the foundation for what the marriage is all about. Again, I don't want to assume that everyone really understands what marriage is, because once people feel that they are of age, they want to get married, they want to settle down. But they also don't realize that there are certain requirements, basic, understanding and knowledge that's required, so that we are able to fully connect in that relationship. And this last one is the basics of marital communication. All right, so I want to take 1 or 2 comments. Is there anyone who want to share with us? If not, I'll jump straight. I'll jump straight into the conversation. Basics of marital communication. Basics of marital communication. All right, so in the absence of no one, I'll jump straight. All right, so what is the objective of the session? What do we want to achieve? What's the objective of the session? To help couples understand the importance of communication in a healthy marriage. Importance of communication in a healthy marriage. Not all marriages are healthy, but in a healthy marriage, we need to be able to understand the importance of communication, because communication is the live wire of every relationship, whether marital or some other kind of relationship that we have in our lives. Whether you're connecting with someone in the office space, whether it's in the neighborhood, whether it's in church, whether it's in the community, anywhere you are connecting with people, you are building relationships, you are working on relationship, and it determines if that relationship will, be good or great. So it's the same thing in marriage. Your communication, which is the live wire of your relationship, your connectedness, is determined by, the quality of conversations that you're able to have, without fear or intimidation. Okay, without fear or intimidation. And it will determine if the marriage will be good, will just be not so good, or will be great. The communication is a critical part in that, in the determinant of that quality. And the number two objective is that we must encourage couples to understand that every marriage needs to create its own pattern for it to flourish and succeed. Every marriage needs to create its own pattern of communication for it to flourish and succeed. Why is this important? Because we practically took patterns, okay? Small ideologies, small patterns, small templates from the marriage or the relationships or the homes that you grew up in. We took something from how mommy and daddy communicate. We took something from how our uncles and aunties that we lived with, communicate. Whoever you lived with, okay, there was some kind of pattern that you picked, and they escaped with us into adulthood. And interestingly, that's how we communicate in our relationship. So you pick something from mommy and daddy, you pick something from the aunties, you pick something from uncle, the family in which you grew up, or the people that you've lived with. You pick something from how they do their communication. How mommy communicated with you when you were younger, how daddy communicated with you when you're younger, how mommy show you happiness when they are happy with you, how daddy show you, that they delight in what you do, or how they show that they are not, pleased with what you did, or how they celebrate you, or how they celebrate themselves, how they, they enjoy their connectedness. If you look very closely, you pick one or two things from that pattern, and that you imported into your own relationship. And somehow that's how you are also connecting with people or connecting with your partner in the relationship. So that is the objective. So let me start with the introduction. Marriage is 85% communication. The communication will determine whether a marriage will succeed or not. If the communication is poor, it's just a matter of time. In fact, the poorer, the faster it fails. The better the communication, then the longer it can last. Okay? And marriage is 85% communication. Communication is very vital in successful marriages. Communication is like blood. The way blood is to life is the way communication is to any relationship. When you empty a life of blood, okay? Because what really kills people is not the injury it creates, but the loss of blood. For example, if you shoot someone, you puncture, the body, and then blood flows out. The faster blood can flow out, the faster the person dies. Okay, the more you can retain, the blood, the longer the person lasts. Have you noticed, especially if you watch movies, when the person is shot, they try, to, put pressure on the spot of injury or impact. Maybe it's a bullet somewhere. They tend to, tie the place or put pressure, cover the place and put pressure so that blood is not wasted. When blood flows out, the life flows out of the person. That's why the Bible says that the life of a flesh is in the blood. The life of a flesh is in the blood. See, the life of a relationship is in the communication. Once you can impact on the communication, you can literally finish that relationship faster than you can imagine. So it is impossible to have any kind of relationship unless there is effective communication. Unless there is effective communication, you cannot separate effective communication from our relationships in life. The issue you're having with the boss is because of communication. maybe the way the person perceives you, or the way the person sees you, or something that the person saw in you that didn't like. Okay, the problem you have with a subordinate, it's purely communication. Have you noticed that sometimes when people are able to iron out their issues, ironing out issues means that they are able to have a healthy conversation, and then they are able to, better work together. So you cannot separate effective communication. We use the word effective communication because you can actually communicate, but can also communicate effectively. And that's our objective, that's our aim, that's our goal, that we are able to effectively communicate. So we cannot separate effective communication from our relationships in life. Living together in an atmosphere where love is communicated promotes stability, where love is communicated, because love also is communicated. Love is conveyed in action, in words. Okay? Some people don't know how to say, I love you. Okay? Even though they love their partner. And then they're having problem with the person because the person doesn't really think that they actually are loved. Why? Because it's not communicated from time to time. I used to say a lot that I love my wife. I used to tell her a lot. I used to do so many things that conveys my love. I need to show it, and I say it. So that the day I have an issue with her, or we have an issue over something, or we don't seem to agree on a particular issue, it will not, be coming from she will not think that it's because I don't love her. I've always communicated love. I've always shown love. I've always displayed love. But the day we cannot seem to agree on a particular issue, it should not bother on our love. It should not impact on our love. So if you've not been doing that, then it's going to be a big issue. Okay, I need someone to check their mic. Someone's mic is unmuted. Okay, so living together in that atmosphere where love is communicated, promotes stability. And what does it mean? Stability means that you are stable all through. I don't know if you notice that David fought many battles in his life. So many battles that God said he had his hand stained with blood when he volunteered to build a house for God. God said, no, you can't build me a house. You have too much blood on your hands. And then Solomon came. And have you noticed? Solomon never fought any war all his life. And he was able to enjoy heavy-duty stability in his relationship, in his kingdom, because most of the wars that she'll be fighting, his father fought them. So what does that mean? When there is stability, you can grow. When there is stability, you can flourish. When there is stability, you can do anything that you desire to do. And then it enhances the quality of your life, okay, and the quality of your relationship. Any country that's not stable is difficult for people to live long there. It's difficult for people to make progress there. It's a very difficult environment. So that's why when communication, if it's effective and it happens well, then stability is promoted. And I want us to understand this because when there is stability, anything good can happen. Anything great can happen. All right, so let's define communication. Generally, we all know that it's a way of passing across news, information, feeling, opinion, and thoughts to a partner and receive the necessary feedback. Okay, so I'm passing across an information to you, and whether it's an information, whether it's a feeling, whether it's an opinion, because again, most of the time we think communication is only in words. Communication is not only in words. Okay, I will show you another pattern, another definition of communication in marriage, after this one. But I want us to understand that when you're passing information, you're passing news, you're passing your feeling and opinion and thoughts to your partner, whether you're talking or not, whether it's a body language or the kind of attitude or atmosphere that you create, you are actually communicating. Your talking is communicating. Not talking is actually communicating as well. So people need to understand that. When you're talking, yes, you communicate. If you refuse to talk, you're also saying something to your partner. It's just that what you're saying is not intentional, it's not conveyed, because you're now allowing the person to run their impression, okay, and come up with their own ideology and philosophy of what you are trying to communicate. And that's one of the difficulties in relationship. Someone is expecting you to know what's in their mind. They have not told you what exactly the issue is, so they expect you to know. That's one of the issues that people are dealing with in a relationship. You can't communicate what you need. You're not communicating your frustration. You're not letting me know what exactly the issue is. You want me to spiritually discern. You want me to just know what the issue is. Why not say it? And then, because that's one of what I call the philosophy of assumption in relationships. So that's my definition. That's my own term. I came up with that. It's a philosophy of assumptions. Because you just assume I'm supposed to know. After all, you know what you did wrong. Say it out and let me know what exactly I did wrong, because sometimes I may have done 3-5 things wrong, but your own estimation is actually 10. So that's why it's good to convey so that the person knows. So never assume. Okay. So in marriage, you cannot be said to have effectively communicated until you successfully pass across the message or the thought to your spouse in a way he or she understands. Okay, in a way he or she understands. Yeah, maybe they grew up in this, maybe they are from the same tribe. Let's assume that the two of them are Yoruba people. But one is just Yoruba by name. You can't speak English beside her. I mean, you can't speak Yoruba beside her or beside him, and he or she will understand. To assume that because we are Yoruba, you will understand me when I speak Yoruba is wrong. There are many people who these days that we want our kids to speak like the Igbo and speak like the Americans, speak like the Western, the Queen's English. And many of them don't know how to speak Yoruba. Not only that, they don't even know how to interpret. And that's another issue. So when they are speaking proverb or they are planning something, and you assume that this person actually understands. No. Several times I've had to speak proverbs to my children, and then they ask me what exactly does it mean. And I've had to deal with a lot of young ladies and young men that I am counseling, and I'm using proverbs and they can't understand it. Proverb is like parables that Jesus gave in those days, and they are supposed to explain things further. Okay, and proverbs are powerful principles, filled with wisdom. That's what proverbs are supposed to be. So to assume that the person will always, understand what you're saying without breaking it down will make your communication a lot more difficult. So when it comes to marriage, you cannot say that you have effectively communicated until you have, effectively pass across your message, your thoughts, your ideas, your philosophies, what your feelings, what you want to pass across, and ensuring that your partner understands. Okay? It is beyond just talking and speaking. It's beyond just talking and speaking. Okay? So what exactly is communication? So I came up with this definition. You will never find this definition anywhere. You will never find it anywhere. This is the communication I came up with, and I want to believe that it suffices, because it's basically, this one is for marriage, and I think it works anywhere, even for every other discipline or every other aspect of life. So I came up with this definition. I'd say communication in marriage is conveying yourself verbally and non-verbally. Let's pause there. Conveying does not really mean that you're talking. Okay, maybe body language, maybe impressions, maybe thoughts, maybe feelings. And so I said verbally. Okay, so doing something like this is communication. Is communication. Okay, so we anchor it on first the verbal, because now it's spoken, it's said, even maybe not intentionally, not deliberately. Okay, so verbally and non-verbally. In other words, you don't have to talk. It could be an attitude, an atmosphere, it could be a disposition, a body language that you came up with, in a way that your spouse understands. This person understands what you say. And this person accepts. But the person may not agree to it. That is what communication means. So it has taken care of the feedback that you actually expect to get. And it has also taken care of the medium with which you are conveying yourself. So I'll take it again. It is conveying yourself verbally and non-verbally in a way your spouse understands and accepts, but may not necessarily agree to. Let me give you a very practical example. So there is this husband who shouts. He shouts a lot. When he's happy, he's shouting. When he's not happy, he's shouting. So it's a weakness. Okay, so he shouts. Now, he was having a conversation with his wife, and on this particular way, it wasn't a communication that was, deliberately intentional. So he's passing across the message because he's now hungry or frustrated. Now, because he's angry, he still shouts. Now shouting. His wife has come to terms with the fact that my husband shouts when he's communicating. In other words, she understands. Now, shouting is a verbal expression. She understands. Okay, don't forget that we said it is conveying yourself verbally and non-verbally in a way your spouse understands. Shouting, she understands. That's how my husband shouts. She accepts. And that's why he shouts. There's nothing she's going to do about it. But does he like it? Is that the way she wants to be communicated with? No. That's why we said she may not necessarily agree to it. Or he may not necessarily agree to it. So it's just coming to terms with the kind of person our partner is. And, factoring into the equation their disposition and their weakness, okay? The way they do their things. It doesn't really mean that we like it or that we want it. So my partner shouts. If my partner shouts, what can I do about it? Yeah, I may have said something about it. We have had conversation about it. And the truth is, when people don't deliberately pay attention to that concern that your partner has raised over time, it often becomes a stumbling block. And the truth most of the time is people make it look as if they don't have the ability to work on that weakness that their spouses have always complained about. See, every time your spouse talks about certain things, please pay attention to it. Anything she has raised or he has raised more than 2 or 3 times, please pay attention to it and work on it. Don't say, that's me. That's the weakness. That's the weakness. Don't say, that's me. There's nothing I can do about it. No, it's a source of concern. There may be nothing the partner can do about it, but there's something you can do about it. Very important. Please work on it. So if it's shouting, she says she doesn't want you shouting. It means that next time you factor it into your equation. My partner doesn't want me shouting. Sometimes it's a couple says, I remember when I'm excited about a conversation or a topic, my voice often go up, okay? And my wife will say, you're shouting. Your voice is raised, your voice is going up. So I just, self-restrain, okay? That's what it means. It means you can discipline yourself and control your attitude and disposition. When people say my partner is violent, somebody's fighting someone, it just shows someone who lacks control over their emotions. Lash out when they are angry, lash out when they are frustrated, they shout at people, no, you. And there's a scripture that says, hunger lies in the bosom of the fool. It's a proverb, it's Bible. I didn't abuse you, it's Bible that said it. He said, anger lies in the bosom of a fool. We have to learn to control ourselves, not give in to our emotions, our passions. Okay, so in this case, I think I have tried to do that explanation. So communication is basically conveying yourself, whether you're speaking or not, said verbally and non-verbally, in a way that your spouse understands and accepts, but they may not necessarily agree to that pattern in your communication. It's just that they are tolerating you because they have come to terms with the fact that, well, that is you. And what does that mean? For me, that is power control in marriage. Let me give an example. So if I know my wife will always shout, now, a practical example, let's assume that my wife always shouts. So when we're getting to the point where she's going to shout, I know from the place of knowledge, okay, and from my experience, from my knowledge, knowing my wife, okay, I know when to pull the plugs or when to apply the brakes. So that because I don't want to continue to indulge her or allow her or make her go and break, the roof. So what do? I will use wisdom. That's power and control in marriage. If you know your husband has tendency for violence, there's something you shouldn't do. If you know your partner has a tendency to misinterpret you, you put a plug on the kind of information you give. When you know your partner can shout, when you get to a point where it looks like the voice is raised, you pull the plug or you apply the brakes. In other words, you exercise control. You exercise power. What is power? Ability to do. So it means that I will not indulge you. I will not push you. I will not, what am I looking for? I will not infuriate you or frustrate you or get you to the point where you fly off the handle. That's what it means. I would use power. Even though you are the one who is always angry, me as your partner or I as your partner, I can regulate that because I know you. I know you. I can regulate that from that angle. So that's what I mean by power and control in relationship and in marriage. So when a person, when heated argument is getting to the point where someone is becoming physical, when the other partner keeps quiet, that's power. And calms down, calm down. When the partner pulls the brake and refuses to say anything further to escalate the matter, that is power. That's power. That's control. And you know what? It de-escalates the matter. The person just calm down. But when they both, are shouting and raising, and oftentimes that's the problem I create. Okay? So couple must eliminate any form or every form of assumption, because we often assume a lot. We assume a lot. I thought you had me. I assume that she knows me. I assume that she wanted it. I thought she liked it. These are the things. You never really know. You assume. And I've always told many couples, once you are not sure, clarify. There's nothing wrong with clarification. I will never forget a couple. He wanted to put a surprise on his wife. That surprise led to fight, serious fight that almost broke their relationship. In other words, she doesn't like surprises. So to assume that your partner likes surprises sometimes can create complexities and complications in marriage. Don't assume that he or she likes surprises. So how do you surprise a person like that? Don't surprise. She doesn't want surprise. Okay, so this is what I want to do. This is what I'm planning. If you really want her to enjoy it, I think if she doesn't like surprise or he doesn't like surprise, then you should make it known. Okay. That way, you will not be misinterpreted and or misunderstood. So never assume. Okay, eliminate any form of assumption when you're doing your communication, because we often assume a lot about really knowing our partners or our spouses, or understanding them and their needs and their fears and their concerns and their expectations. But the truth is, we never really know. We don't. It takes a while to really know people. I'm still understanding my wife after over 21 or 20, going to 22 years now of marriage. Very important. Very important. Okay? So never assume. That's what communication is. So God intended that a man and a woman should be fulfilled in their marriage, but poor communication is our issue. It's a strong reason why there's a lot of fight. Poor communication. And not just poor communication, maybe faulty individuals along with it. So we have our weaknesses and we don't even know how to convey ourselves and have healthy conversations. That's why we have a lot of rancor, fracas, and bitterness, envy, and brutality in many marriages, including Christian marriages today. Genesis chapter 2, verse 25, Bible says, and they both were naked. That they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed. They were both naked and they were not ashamed. That level of being naked talks of complete vulnerability. Nothing hidden, nothing broken, nothing hidden. There's nothing about me that you don't know. There's nothing about you that I don't know. If there's going to be any, it's going to be very, very minimal. That's a level we'll never really get to. Because now these days, people talk about not sharing the same, don't look into your husband's phone, don't look into your wife's phone. And if your marriage is young, I don't understand what that means. I don't. And I will not support it. I will not support it. Why should a partner not be able to know what's going on in the life of your spouse or something? So what exactly is it about your phone that is hidden? What is there? I thought Bible says they are both naked and they are not ashamed. That's what scripture says. So there is no societal philosophy, that will approve. When sometimes people are looking for societal approval, they are not looking for what is the pattern, what's the standard of God. And I've said this over and over again. If Bible is not expressive about an item, an issue, the Bible didn't say anything about a particular thing. Okay, the Bible is quiet about it. If you look closely in God's word, in that same Bible, you will see a pattern that you can take an example from, a template, an example. Okay, you will see if you look very closely in the Bible. He may not have said something about it, but if you look closely, you will find one that is very similar. So you can take a cue from there. So the Bible standard is complete. Okay, forever, oh Lord, your word is settled. So God's word is settled. He said, therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one. One means that there is nothing that you have that I don't own. There's nothing I own that you don't have. Okay? And he said they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed. So that's where the issue is. And if I know that you are sincere, you are open, you are honest, I think it'll be a lot easier for people, to work together. There's a couple that I'm handling now, and their issue borders on, trust. Again, if trust is the issue here, it's almost the real foundation of relationship. You can't build anything on on lack of trust. You can't build anything. So that's why it's a key part of the relationship. Conversation, and needs to be resolved. So all the major issues that we talk about in marriage, whether it's money, my money, your money, sex, fidelity, faithfulness, loyalty, dealing with in-laws. You insulted my mother, you insulted your father. They are all the issues of communication. All. There's no issue in marriage that does not emanate from communication issues. Money is. Okay, money is, depending on the environment in which you live. Someone is arranging his money. His wife is also arranging her money. So your money, our money, once they cannot harmonize in the area of money, it will always continue to be an issue. Okay, because we all have a disposition and attitude towards money. When we're growing up, we imbibe some very, very interesting values about money. Okay, so if a couple have not harmonized that, it's going to continue to impact in their relationship. Okay, someone is going to be worshiping money, somebody is going to be spending money. So depending on how they're able to harmonize on their values about money, about sex, about dealing with the in-laws, dealing with all the other issues in their lives. They are all communication issues. So once the communication is good, every other one, along that line will be good. Everything else. You are broke. So a couple of weeks ago, okay, so I think I shared this on my phone. A guy called me and was complaining about, his frustration and, some of the issues that he was having. This is an entrepreneur who was running his own business. So after my conversation, to encourage him, put some new vibes and energy in him, he was excited. Then later I spoke with the wife and I said, I expect that when your husband is going through a phase like this or through an experience like this, you are the one he was supposed to call. Okay, he reached out to me. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to me, but I felt that some of the issues that, was based on our conversation was a bit personal. I think the wife would have provided a better succor, but obviously something was wrong between the two of them. And so I said, I expect that you will be the one that, fill this, vacuum. And she said something that struck me. She said, when my husband is broke, you don't want to be around him. Whoa. When my husband is broke, you don't want to be around him. There's tension everywhere. So it looks like money, there's the force that money generates around him. Now, she knows her husband more than I do. Okay, she knows her husband. So when he's broke, she avoids him. She avoids him. And he's complaining. The man is complaining that, not knowing that you're actually the one that's repelling your wife. She doesn't want to be around you because of the force of field that you've generated anytime you're broke. That should not be. That should not be. And that's part of the issue. So he's broke. It impacted on the communication. They couldn't talk to her, so he avoided him. And he continued to be frustrated. Now, assume that I was not around to even have that conversation with him. What would have happened? What would have happened? So, intimacy. They're not enjoying their sex. Somebody doesn't touch someone once in 6 months, because I've seen crazy patterns when people don't marriage. I've been married for over 20 years. And intimacy with my wife is when we started maybe every other day or every day. Intimacy. Now, of course, as we age and so many other things, but it's not like once a week or once in 2 months. What's wrong with people? That's why there'll always be tension. If I look around, there's a lot of tension in our society and environment. It's because people have tension, internal bedroom tensions that is impacting on every other thing. I'm telling you, if a woman is not happy in the office space, I mean, she's not happy at home, it shows in the office. If a man is not happy in the house, it shows in the office. It will just carry all these, we spill it over into everything and splash our frustration and emotion on everything else that our hands touches. Very, very important. So once intimacy is wrong, it will impact every other thing. It's the reason why there's heavy duty infidelity in marriages, because people are not getting intimate anymore. I don't know what exactly the problem is. Okay, these are the things that impacts on. So again, the intimacy, it's also a communication thing. So a woman can communicate, she can't connect with you when she's not happy. So whether it's emotional thing that she's dealing with in the office or some kind of emotional thing between she and her husband. I remember a woman I spoke to, she said, Pastor, look at my husband. Did you see his belly? He's lost shape. I thought this woman that loses shape. Now it was a woman who was telling me that, see, my husband. In other words, she doesn't feel attracted to him like before. That thing I used to, to spark in her when she sees her husband is no more there because the man's lost shape. Okay, she said, look at him, look at his shape. He's grown belly and he's not paying attention to his look. She said, when my husband dresses before, he used to be, now he just dresses anyhow. These are the things. So we don't know how these things impact on the quality of relationship. So a partner may not be able to say it. They may not be able to say it. Okay, so you put it, they internalize it, and it's there, and yet it's like a root of bitterness that is working its way into every aspect or every pattern of the relationship. That's key. So as young couples, please pay attention to these things. We must be able to have those conversations. If your partner is going out of shape, you must be able to lovingly communicate it, convey it. Okay, you must be able to say it. If you want her to add weight, you must be able to say it. If you want her to lose weight or want him to lose weight, you must be able to have those conversations, because the inability to, say those things or have those conversations impact eventually, because they just become roots of bitterness that continue to spring. Bible says that heat destroys or compromises us, and that's very important. So that's what I mean by dealing with in-laws and every other issue of communication in marriage. So don't assume that your spouse understands you clearly each time you speak. Don't assume. That assumption is wrong. That's why somebody will say, but I told you yesterday. And the person say, you didn't tell me. Apparently, when you were conveying it, you assume that he or she got it. No. Be sure that you got the right feedback or the right response. Adam and Eve were examples that we all use from time to time. In the garden that God created, so God gave Adam the instruction, but his wife was not there. I don't know if you know. Eve was not there. God didn't give the two of them that instruction. It was the man alone that God gave that instruction. Eve was not yet created. So it was after God gave the instruction that God now said that it's not good that this man should be alone. Adam was not lonely, but he was alone. Loneliness and alone are not the same thing. There are a lot of couples today who are lonely and alone, even though they are married. So Adam was the one who received that instruction from God firsthand. How he was able to convey or communicate with his wife is a different thing entirely. Because when the enemy came, he didn't come to the man who had that information firsthand. He came to the person who was relayed to, the third party. Adam relayed the instruction of God to his wife, which is also one of these things. We're going to have that conversation today in this communication thing. What's the meaning of husband? What does husband mean? What do you do after you got married? In fact, before you got married, okay, let's assume those things never happened. Now that you're married, what should be happening? So that we don't just follow the motion. And then in a matter of years, people are frustrated in their marriage. Okay, so Adam was supposed to communicate. Now, what he conveyed or what he communicated with his wife is a different thing entirely, because when the enemy came, he did not come to Adam. He came for his wife. And because if I can't undo you, if I can't catch you, I can always come through your wife or come through your children. I'm just looking for the weakest link to hit you. That's what normally happens. If he can't get you, think you are the strongest one. And they said the chain is as strong as his weakest link. They couldn't handle Samson, the Philistines. They couldn't handle Samson, but they could handle Delilah. And it was like, because that's easy. Very easy to deal with how powerful Samson was, powerful. But when they came through his weakest link, who's supposed to be his wife or his fiancée or his girlfriend, whatever, they caught him. That's how easy it is. No matter, I've seen movies where the guy is so bad and so wicked, but to catch him, just take his child, or take his wife, or touch his family. That's where you see another dimension of it. And there are so many men like that. Okay, they will kill you. They will do anything for their children if you touch their children. But the truth also is that they are actually not available for their children. They will die for their children. But what's the usefulness of a dead lion? The Bible says that a living dog is better than a dead lion. So you cannot touch my child. You can't do anything. They will kill the heaven and earth and destroy everything because you're touching my wife or you're touching my children. But the truth is they actually have not always been available. They've never been available. So what's their usefulness? Is it not better that they are available and they are not lions? They are dogs that are available, that for them to be lion that is dead are not available. That's what I mean. So that communication is key. It impacted the first family that God created. They ended up having, the first murderer as a child. Remember Isaac and Rebecca? It's the same thing. This communication thing has always been an issue in the family. Rebecca was pregnant. After 20 years, after waiting for 20 years, then the pregnancy was disturbing her. She wasn't sure. So Bible says she went and prayed. And God spoke to her and God said to her, you have a twin. You have two boys, two nations. God called them nations. He said, two nations shall be separated from you. And then he gave her more information that naturally God will give. He told her about the destinies of those children and which one he has preferred and his plan and his purpose concerning those children. Guess what? Rebecca took that information and there was nowhere it was documented in scriptures that she had a conversation with her husband about the things that God told her concerning those children. So she kept it to herself. That's what people do. They keep things to themselves and they're supposed to be one. The Bible says, man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two of them shall become one flesh. I will continue to emphasize that. We become one. We became one. When you got married, you became one. Now, that oneness may happen over time because what it means is that you have been friends. Me and my wife were talking about a message we heard yesterday that husband and wife are not supposed to be friends. I mean, they may be friends, okay, and they may build their relationship on beautiful friendship, okay. But in the real sense of the word, when it comes to roles, they're actually not friends. One is the head, one is the leader. One is the head, one is the leader. So it's the same thing. Even when you run into a partnership, you want to start a business with someone, you can't have 50-50. Somebody would have to take responsibility. Someone needs a controlling share. So there's a 49-51% or some other proportion. Okay, but you cannot say 50-50. Oh, you can't take the decision. It's not proper in business. So when it comes to husband and wife, one person must take the lead. One person takes the responsibility. Okay, so and it's the man who is the head. He's the one God made the head. And the woman defers to him, not because he's inferior, not because he's stupid. It's for hierarchy, okay, and for structure and for functionality. So a man who is not leveraging the wisdom of his wife, who thought he married a fool, something is wrong with him. They're supposed to leverage. Because the truth is, if we can impact her, we can impact you. Something was destroyed because of his weakest link. He was supposed to be Delilah. You think you're powerful. May God not allow Satan to come through. A man will crumble. Yeah, that's the way it works. So that's why that communication must happen. That conversation must happen. So Rebecca kept the information to herself. And then it shows off later in the life of the kids. So she fell in love with the one that God loved, the one that God chose. Isaac didn't know. Isaac fell in love with the first one that came. And then we saw all the politics that happened in the house, how one brother stole the blessings of another, and that one made effort to kill his brother. The rest is story. Just the way it happened for Cain and Abel. Something happens all the time when something is wrong with that communication. Did you notice that God did not exonerate Adam? That, it was not you. Hey, he said, Adam, what happened? He said, it's the wife that you gave me. The wife said, no, it's Satan, the serpent. And guess what? God gave the only person God cursed was Satan. I mean, was the serpent. Yes, Satan's serpent. But God rolled out the consequence of their action to them. And guess what? Their life never remained the same. Eve was never the same. Adam was never the same. The first of all lost the presence of God. And they were reduced to flesh. And the struggle started. That was how their life. So that's what normally happens. When something happened to our relationship, and we can't, I mean, especially our communication, it struggles. People are reduced to guessing. And then frustration starts. And all sort of things happen in relation. So intending couples, these young couples must therefore be open, be sincere with each other. You must talk about your past experiences in life. Okay, sometimes that's one of the things that needed to happen that never really happened. When people are cutting. Okay, please, can someone check your mic? Okay, your microphone is open, it's unmuted. Okay, and sometimes that's part of the frustration. So this person is coming from a journey. You don't know what's made this beautiful lady that you saw, or what's made this young man that you see today. All the experiences they've had to go through in life, those things shaped us, they formed us on the inside. So we just thought that this is a fine babe, or this is a fine guy. Fine guy, fine babe, get something inside. And that's what normally we begin to see that, manifest in the relationship. So you must talk about your past experiences in life. Yeah, some women would never trust, maybe because of their 2-3 previous relationships, but that's heavily on trust. This one that they are getting married to is beginning to show pattern also. Don't forget that they'll be second guessing and checking you. The same thing with the lady. The man married, his previous relationship, the lady was unfaithful. So we carry those experiences into the relationship. And, we begin to use them. They form like a Google that we use to look at other people or to judge people or filter our disposition towards people. So let's talk about those past experiences and have those healthy conversations, the habits that we formed, the mannerism, especially those that can ruin your marriage or ruin your future. Talk about your lifetime goals and your ambitions, your aspirations, and your objectives in life. Talk about your plans. You've been married now, fine. For those who are not married, please, those should be part of the conversation that you're having with your partner. The person, in fact, your vision in life, your purpose in life should determine who you're getting married to. We don't pay, that doesn't matter here. Most of the time, we just marry people. And then when things happen, when we now are set in a pattern, in the way that we want to go in life, we're now frustrated. There's a pastor I know in this city whose marriage, just broke as a result of a new area that he wanted to go into in life. Yeah, he was not a pastor when he dated his wife when they were dating and cutting, but he was a celebrity, and then suddenly God called him, and he had to do God's work, and that was where the voila started. The woman said, "I didn't plan to marry a pastor," and the rest is the story today. That marriage didn't work. So if those conversations happen, see, God may call you. So it's the decisions you need to make now. I don't want to marry a pastor. So everybody goes their separate way now. Okay, this is my plan. I want to live in Dubai, or I want to live outside the country. I don't want to go anywhere. Okay, these are the conversations that need to happen. Or else it puts a lot of pressure on couples, and before you know it, they are dealing with issues that they should not be dealing with. So is it business? So this person, I remember when we got married. Okay, so before we got married, my wife was a banker. She was working in the bank. I didn't have a job. So I think, by the time we got married, I had gotten a job with the civil service. Okay, so civil service was not my plan. But she knew all along that I was going to be a pastor one day. And because it was there, even though I didn't want to do the work, but it was there all this while. In fact, when it got to the point, when the push came to shove, she was the one who pushed me and said, "Go and do God's work." There are people that are women who don't want to marry pastors. The moment you made that decision, they want to go. And a man is struggling to pull them. I have pastor friends who find it difficult to start a church because their wife doesn't want to be pastor's wife. Because it's a powerful responsibility that they don't want to deal with. So how do they go? A pastor's wife is a crazy responsibility, just in case someone, you'll be taking responsibility. And then your husband is always busy. And some people don't want that. They just want their quiet life in their corner. Okay, so these are the things. So that should influence the kind of person that you marry in the first place. But now you're married. Maybe that conversation never happened. So what should you be talking about? You should be talking about career projections, your business projections. So ministry, what is the future? What are you guys planning? Okay, where are we going to live? How many kids are we going to have? You cannot just be having children. You need to make up your mind. I'm going to have 2, whether boys or girls or whatever mixture. I'm going to have 2 kids. Where are we going to live? We're going to live in Lagos. We're going to live in Abuja. We're going to live in Port Harcourt, wherever you want to live. Those conversations need to happen. You just flow with the tide or the trend. Who is going to live with us? I'm going to have a house girl. Suppose, for example, I am the firstborn. My wife is the secondborn, and we both have 7. So I'm first of 7. She's second of 7. So when we got married, the question was, who is going to live with us? Because normally as a firstborn, you can bring all your family come and live with you, or 3 of them come and live with you, and create a lot of pressure on relationships. Because now you are the father of the house. Egbomi, the father, family chief, family head. So they all come and live, and your wife will begin to slave for everyone else. Sometimes when people are not real trained. So that's part of the issue. So he's going to live with us. Okay, is mommy going to live with us? Is daddy going to live with us? Is my sibling going to live with us? Is somebody going to live with us? These are the conversations. Do we need house help? Are we going to have house help in this family? Is it going to be a boy, a woman, or a man? Or what then? So those things are healthy things that should happen in the conversation. Somebody plans to be a business person somewhere along the line. Okay, so he wants to leave 9 to 5, maybe after 5 years of marriage or something like that, because he wants to run his own business. He wants to run his own show. Sometimes, because that conversation never happened, when it got to the point of making that decision, somebody is afraid to make that decision. I remember a guy several years ago, I lost contact with him. He was working in the bank. Okay, she was working with, I think she was also working in the bank. Anyway, she left the bank and then she started this business. So he pumped a lot of money into it because he was planning to resign from the bank and face business with his wife in 5 years. Unfortunately, he did not follow up. He did not monitor. He didn't understand the concept of business. So he gave the money to his wife. The first business, she went to Dubai, bought things, that was when people were going abroad to buy, not drop shipping that we do today. She traveled to Dubai, bought men's clothing, and then came to sell. She sold I think in those days, he said invested over 2 million. After 6 months, there was nothing. No, she couldn't account for everything because there were people owing her. She didn't understand the business very well. And that's one of the very important things. If you're going to run a business, whatever business you want to run, go and get the best training. You don't know anything about the business. You put your money in it, you are finished. That's the point. Because you are going to use that money to learn experience. You are going to use that money to learn experience. You can go into any business without money and you will make a lot of money. Why? Knowledge of that industry. Knowledge. Once you know, it would open up to you possibilities and opportunities. When I started oil and gas, okay, I didn't have the money. So I attached myself with someone who was doing it. And the man showed me the nitty-gritty and how to raise capital just came to me naturally. If I was outside, not learning the business, it would be difficult to raise the capital. After I spent over several months with him, the man said, go and raise the capital. And it was easy to learn the capital. Now, it gave me leverage because I was now using his network to pull up my own business as well. I learned that wisdom powerfully. This business you are doing that you just taking this one, but you're not ready yet. If you really want to do business and you're going to stay in it for the long haul, especially if it's going to be something that you want to do the rest of your life, go and get the best training. I don't care how long it takes you. Go and get the best training. When my wife was going to start the restaurant business, I attached her, asked her to stop the work she was doing, attached her to someone who was doing the business so that she could learn. Of course, you would never be prepared, fully prepared for whatever you're going to do in life. But at least you need enough information for you to jumpstart. Good information for you to jumpstart and to scale. Very important. So talk about your visions. And say this is not, things are becoming more difficult and more complicated. So that's why people need to have those healthy conversations. You must open up and talk about your future and your plans together. Okay? If you want to be a business person later, let your partner know. If you're going to you want to focus on career, let your partner know. If you want to work in a multinational, if you don't mind traveling the nations of the world, have those conversations, because it will guide decisions so that when things are going to happen, when things are going to open up, it's not going to create frustration. You don't get to the airport and now begin to wonder, okay, so which country am I flying to? You would have decided and bought your ticket before you left your house. So when you got to the airport, it's just to look at the gates, which gates, check your ticket, which gate am I going to? This country where I'm going to, where's the gate? And go straight to the gate and wait there. When you call your flight, you jump on flight. That's it. That's the way life is structured. Very, very simple. Now, it's not as simple, okay, but it's that easy. Okay, so that's that. So 4 basic ways in which we communicate is by talking. Number 1, we talk. And that's the one a lot of people focus on. Talk. You know, when we were children, our parents were very, very excited when we made our first dad, mommy. You know, when we called their names, hallelujah, all those beautiful things that we said, that's a powerful one. And that's the one we celebrated so much. We still celebrate it today. Talking. Talking may not necessarily be communicating, even though it's one of the basic ways in which you can communicate. There's a second one which is more powerful. As the Bible says, slow to speak, but hasty to hear. Okay, that's why some people say he gave us two ears and 1 mouth, so that we can speak once and hear twice. Okay, and there's a second one which is listening. That is the one nobody taught us about. We want to talk. No, when both of us are talking, who wants to listen? And the reason we'll always have issues is because no one wants to listen. We think that the person who is listening is the weaker one. No, that's the stronger one. Listening. We are actually not listening. In fact, if we are listening, we are even listening with the intention to give response and reply, not with the intention of understanding. Stephen Covey, I think is the 7th in the seven habits of highly effective people. Is it the 6th habit? Seek first to understand for you to be understood. That's what he said. Seek first to understand before you now ask somebody to understand you. You've tried to understand them first. Okay, this is what you say. Oh, sorry, this is what I'm actually trying to say. So listening is a key part of this conversation. When your husband is saying something, are you listening, really listening to him? When your wife is conveying a concern and frustration, are you really listening to her, or you are listening with intention to give her a response and answer? Listening. The 4th one is action. You may be saying one thing and doing another thing. It's that's the 3rd way in which we communicate. And then number 4 is the attitude and atmosphere that we create. The attitude with which we talk, and atmosphere that we create. And that's why people say it's giving me attitude. People can manage all these other ones. This attitude, people hate it a lot. It's giving me attitude. Okay, and attitude simply means that you are disgruntled, you are showing yourself in such a way that you're not talking. You just create a force around you that conveys something else to this person, to the partner. So these are the 4 ways in which you communicate. We talk, we listen, we act, or we do something, and then sometimes we give up attitude, put up attitude and atmosphere that conveys what we are trying to say. And so we say that in communication, the tone of voice is 38%. This one is scientifically proven. And sometimes this figure varies slightly. It is the tone of the voice. The tone of the voice, how your voice, the tone of voice, whether it's elevated or low, is 38% in any communication process. They said the use of words, the word that you say exactly, is just 7%. Then the non-verbal expressions, the body language and attitude and everything, is 55%. You now realize that actually the tone is a critical factor. You can actually say somebody is stupid in a nice way, and it will take away the effect of that stupidity. Okay, when you say it in a nice way. And that's talking about the tone of voice and the verbal expression, non-verbal expression, not the actual word. So what it means is that the actual word is not that very powerful, not that very powerful in any communication process. It's not that very powerful. It's actually our attitude and the way we said it. That's why you must learn to speak. You know how to speak to your husband in a nice way. You know how to speak kind words to your wife in a nice way. See, not what you say, but the tone. and the attitude, the atmosphere with which you say it. That's it. I can actually say your mom is a witch. I can say it in a nice way, and we will laugh about it. Remember what happened was it 2 Grammys 2 years ago or last year, when one of the comedians, what's his name again, make a joke about Will Smith's wife. It was a joke, he said it, but the real thing that he wanted to convey was powerful. He didn't, because Will Smith just laughed. It was later when he saw the face of his wife that he now reacted. Very important. Okay, very, very important. Okay, so it's Will Smith and Chris Rock. Chris Rock, yeah, Will Smith and Chris Rock. All of us know when he went right on the global stage and slapped Chris Rock. Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and it led to a lot of issues and conversations. So it's the same thing. If you watch that video very well, you will notice that he had laughed, before. So I can say nice, very terrible thing in a nice way. You will not get it. In the English community, I think they use something about, they say polite insult. Yes. So what this is saying is that in any communication, the tone of voice is important. So how you shout when you raise your voice, it impacts in what you're saying. In fact, it makes a mess of what you want to say. Once the tone is raised up, once the tone, it comes with a very funny tone, it creates, you already put some kind of plugs in the wheel. Okay, and the verbal expression. So don't give attitude when you're trying to speak, because your body language comes in your communication process. Again, I'm not a communication expert, but in relationships that I've seen. So I'm counseling a couple, and they are both seated before me. I can pick everything. So while I'm listening to the wife, I'm looking at the husband stylically in a way. He doesn't know I'm looking at him, and I'm studying. So I can read the expression. So when someone is saying the truth, I know. When someone is not saying the truth, it's easy to know. Okay, and so that's what I mean. So be careful, because you now find out that it's just 7%. The actual word is at 7%. The rest is non-verbal expressions. Very, very important. So what are the tips in this case? Number one, learn to listen to your spouse, and it will enhance your communication. Learn to listen. Okay? Learn to listen. Number two, your partner will be encouraged to open up when you ask appropriate questions. There are questions that you ask, and it will convey, disloyalty, to convey insult, to convey distrust. If you want to ask question for clarification. Okay, and ask sincerely and in a nice way. Okay, employ the wisdom of soft answers in your communication. Soft. It's a wisdom. Soft. So if you're going to ask a question, you can't say, so why did you do it? No. Okay, so why did you do that? You say in so many ways in which way it can employ wisdom of soft answers in our communication. And lastly, always design the right time to speak or to reply. Okay, there's a timing for everything. For example, you are both in the public. You cannot be asking your husband for clarifications or anything in the public space. So maybe he asked you to do something things, or maybe he said, let's do it this way, or he insisted on something. So allow. So when you get home, you cannot be arguing and creating a scene right there in the public. So what you do is, okay, no problem. When you get home, you can now use the wisdom of soft answer to ask your question. So why did we do that? Why did you ask me to do that? Or why did you suggest this? Or why did you agree to this? That's what needs to happen. Okay. What are the components of effective communication? Number one is trust. Trust is key. Trust is so precious in effective communication. It means that you have full confidence, you have faith, you have assurance in that person, in the person that you're communicating with. Once there is trust, it's easy for me to open up. Once there's trust, it's easy for me to believe you. Once there's no trust, I will not believe you. Once there is no trust, I will not be able to accept all the things that you're saying. There's always this element of second guessing. That's what normally happens. So trust is key. Each partner must work at being trustworthy. So if you lie consistently over time, there's going to be a problem. When you are even saying the truth, it's going to be a problem for your partner to believe. I'm telling you. So that's why nothing must happen to your trust too. Once anything happen to the trust, it's a struggle for the rest of that relationship. Trust must continuously be built. And it's not something that you build, because again, what happens is that you actually give someone the trust. They are the one who messes it up or who diminishes the trust. I say, I love you. Loving you means that I confer some measure of trust in you. Okay, so the betrayal in a matter of time. I just saw a video now. The guy gave his brother over 70-something million. He was in Europe, struggling in Europe, and gave something millionaire to his brother to build a house for him. He was showing him pictures. The guy came home. His brother refused to pick his call until he investigated and found out where he was living. And then they started this fight. He trusted his brother and gave him money. The rest is history today. No house, no money. How? Tomorrow he's going to have issues with trusting people. His own blood brother. That's the thing. Many partners have, they have destroyed the trust, have betrayed their partners. They have shown disloyal tendencies, all sort of things. So let's work on trustworthiness. And if you are in a relationship and you've had to suffer some kind of trust issues before, this is a new partner. Don't carry over that trust. Have a conversation about that trust, okay? And let the person know what's happened in the past and how is a struggle, okay? And give the person the benefit of doubt. And you that they are giving the benefit of doubt, don't go and watching the case. All the issues that happen, you are the one that will carry it in your head. You would suffer because a lot of people are suffering for things they don't know anything about in relationships. So some people have, betrayed a partner, and this person is now married. Now those experiences are showing up in this relationship, and he is paying for those things that he didn't commit because he didn't know what exactly happened previously in this person's life. So that's very important. So you must work at being trustworthy. Don't show things that will further escalate issues. We must learn to keep secrets and don't use them as weapons of offense when we have differences. If I tell you anything about me, and when everything is nice and beautiful, don't keep them, don't use them when we are fighting. Okay? You must learn the art of being a good listener. And not only that, always asking the right question. That's trust. Okay? If I know that I cannot trust you, I will not give you information. Because sometimes people think that giving information should be just automatic. Okay? No, you have to work at it. Very important. And the next one, understanding. A good understanding will always bring about good establishment in relationship. Keep talking, using words with point and purpose, not necessarily nagging. Listen responsively and responsibly. Okay, this is responsively and responsibly. Okay, and express opposing views or opposing ideas lovingly. Okay, and be constructive when you have to criticize. Don't be destructive in your criticism. Okay, that means that I can open up to you more and I give you more information. I remember a pastor friend who got into trouble when he couldn't trust me. Okay, not trust his wife. He said every time I bring issues to my wife, she judges me. She instead of her to empathize with me, understand me, she will say, "You too, why did you do it like that?" It was getting to the point where it looks like she's always on the side of the enemy. So he stopped talking to her. So he started connecting with someone else, another lady somewhere along the line, and that got him into a lot of trouble. Of course, nobody would know. People would just judge what happened, not knowing that the wife was the one who, foolishly pushed her husband out. Okay, and he connected with someone. And of course, when you connect with someone and you give that person a lot of, somewhere along the line, there's this chemistry that can happen if people are not very sensitive. Okay, so that was what happened, and he exposed their relationship and created a lot of issues. Thank God they were able to master it. Okay, and then lastly, openness. Why are we talking about components of effective communication? We said trust is the first one. Number two is understanding. When we understand each other, it's a lot easier for us to work together. And the last one is openness. Be open to one another. Be open to each other. You can't afford to have anything hidden. Okay, because we know that whatever is covered now will eventually come to light. Bible says there's nothing hidden, there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing is going to be hidden forever. Okay, but by the time that is coming out, sometimes it comes with shame and disappointments and disasters. There's this saying that whoever must come to equity must come with cleaners. You want to come to justice or go to equity, you must come with. So you cannot have hidden, and then so it's like somebody who plans to take on government tomorrow. If you know you're going to take on government tomorrow, make sure you don't have any secret today, because they are going to come after that secret when the time comes. We started that in White Olive from the outset. all the records with the law. We kept everything. It was not that we're foolish. It was deliberate and intentional, because one day when we are going to speak, again, speak to authority, speak to power, they will not be looking for our secrets. So if a pastor has been sleeping around, he's one of those girls they're going to pick tomorrow. Remember what happened to Trump? And they're going to be looking for. That's the way it works. That's the dog world that we live in. So that's why God expects us to conduct ourselves well. Sometimes it's marriage that they use against the person. So whatever is covered today will eventually open up tomorrow. Let me just round this up before. So there's someone I was talking to, and she was abused when she was much younger. Now they are all grown up. But the person who abused cannot remember. But the abused, the person remembers. So whatever you are today, whatever the person is today, the person that was abused will always remember. And guess what? Sometimes people don't know that a child as small as 2 or 3 years old remembers things vividly, especially if those things damaged them. A pastor in the UK went to jail for an offense he committed over 7 years after. 7 years after, he went to jail. He's a pastor. Today, he's not pastoring anymore. The thing happened 7 years ago. And they came after him. And in the developed country, in the UK, the developed environment, they will not say, it happened several years ago. Once the person is alive and they come with the evidence, they're going to come after you. And that was it. He went to jail. The church, he stopped pastoring. He stopped pastoring. There are lots of celebrities that we see today, people that is after 10 years, including Bill Cosby, the things that he did several years ago. So that's why these things are important. A lady talked to me, she said to me that I don't want to sleep around because I want to be a senator later. And nobody will have my secret. I said, this is a smart lady. So even in our relationship, in our marriages, sometimes this is the way things happen. Very, very important. Openness is not only for women. Men must also learn to act. They must learn the act of opening up to their spouses. Be accountable. That's what it means. Live your life deliberately and intentionally. And once I know that you're open, then it makes the journey a lot easier. Okay, it makes the journey a lot easier. All right, so that's what I want to share with us today. Let me just round it up with this one so that I don't forget. I said we're going to talk about the different levels of communications in a relationship, 5 levels that I have discovered, 5 levels in which we communicate. So the first one is that we communicate at level 1. Level 1 simply means that they talk very little. Okay, I've had to explain this to a lot of couples. If you and your husband or you and your wife just talking little, you don't have any other thing, no serious conversation. It's just common conversations, general talks, no depth, emotions are not involved, no risk involved. Okay, and then you are quiet most of the time. You need to work on your relationship, even though you have been married for a few years now, for a few months. You need to work on your relationship. That's the first level. Okay, so you don't need too much risk. You don't want to expose yourself unnecessarily to your partner. That's the first level. The second level is when we talk about facts and other things. Okay, we talk about facts. Oftentimes we talk about the office. You can bring office issues home. Okay, talk about the things happening in the office, things happening in social media, along with all the first level of communication. Okay, when we talk about the general things, the common issues, no depth, no risk. It's just that in this level, level 2, they now talk about office work, things happening in the office space. They talk about social media issues, and sometimes they talk about kids, if they have kids, or they talk about their siblings. Mommy said this, daddy said this. That's the second level of communication. So what they're actually doing is building greater trust and confidence in their relationship. It's also at this level, the depth of emotional involvement is also not very high, because you're also not giving too much information and not too much risk involved. That's the second level. The third level is when we now talk about ideas and opinions. Now I have an opinion, okay, and I have a personal opinion. I can give you more revelation about me. Okay, I can give you more. Okay, I'm also careful to divulge information to you because I'm still checking you. I'm cautious. Okay, and in this case, I'm still at my head level. My head discussion, head conversation. This has not gotten to my heart yet. Okay, that's what normally happens at the third level. Now, fourth level, when we're talking about feelings and emotions. You know, it will surprise you that some relationship they don't talk about feelings and emotions. You don't have a feeling, you don't have an opinion. It's what this man said. I mean, this husband said, or what Madame wants. So these are the things. Okay, so they don't talk about this, but in the fourth level, we're now talking about feelings and emotions. They are taking risk. Okay, they're taking risk along with all the other ones. They give more information, they give their personal opinion, they are now expressing their feelings and their emotions. Okay, and now they have moved from the head, now the hearts are involved. Okay, that's the fourth level. And the large chunk, I would say 98% of marriages are at the third and the fourth level. 98% or 95% of marriages are at the third and the fourth level. Third and fourth level marriages will survive more, okay? And they'll be happier compared to first two levels. In fact, first two levels, the marriages don't last long. And then the last level is the fifth level, where we now talk about our hopes, okay? We talk about our failures, we talk about our aspirations, we talk about their fears, and I can share with my wife my temptations. Wow, that's the highest level. Because most of the time, we actually never really share our temptations with our partners. We may share it with a friend, a best friend or close friend, but we never really show it to our partners because we can't trust them to handle those information. Okay. So now we talk about truth in love. There's total transparency in the fifth level. There's nothing hidden between the two of them. You'll be amazed, you'll be surprised that there's nothing they don't talk about at this level. Okay, so that is the fifth level. Now, that fifth level is God's design of the two of them were both naked and they were not ashamed. That is the fifth level. That is the fifth level of communication. All right. So that's what I want to share with us today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this helps significantly in a relationship, especially if you're young or you're about to marry or you're married this some few years, gone. This can help improve the quality of communication in your home. Again, Bible says, can two work together except they agree? There has to be that synergy, that harmonization that needs to happen so that our relationships can get better. See, with fantastic communication, marriage will last long. Not just last long, they'll be fulfilling, they'll be happy. Okay? Communication. Always learn to communicate. And the more we communicate, the more mature we become. Okay, because now information is coming to us. Not everyone can handle, all the information. All right, so thank you so very much. And so I'll take a few questions before we shut down. Any question? Okay, so I'll stop sharing my slide now.
I have a question, sir.
All right. Hi, Jay.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, sir, my question is this. I just want to know what you think about discussing everything or just letting some things pass. Because I notice I'm in this kind of situation where I like to discuss everything. Even if the issue is as small as, why did you kill this cockroach on the wall? I like to talk about it. But I realize that my partner prefers, there are some things that just let it go. You don't have to talk about it. And this just let it go things. Sometimes you see that after some time, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, that issue now comes out from where you don't know. But he still prefers must everything be an issue. Why not just let it go? But that doesn't work for me. So I don't know if there's a way I can strike a balance, because I prefer to talk about every single thing. And it's almost as if it's an issue.
All right. So so we have different, personalities and experience, individual relationships. There are people who want an issue resolved now. There are people who want to, spend some time with. There are people who we need all the time in the world to make a decision. Meanwhile, time is going. Okay. And most of the time, we always marry people from those different spectrum. So you like to talk about everything. Your partner is not, too inclined to have those conversations. Again, if you look very closely, several years ago, I counseled a couple. The lady said, this man doesn't talk. And the guy doesn't talk. The guy doesn't talk. I'm not sure if that marriage eventually held, because I can't remember. But I remember their story now that, I'm talking about this. And she said he doesn't talk. That's always this issue and all that. Anyway, so one of these days, I started asking questions and probing. And we got to talk about a coup that happened in Nigeria, the Babangida coup that happened in the Barracks, and I think this Gideon Oka coup. And this guy was ex-military. And the guy was in the Barracks that day. You need to come and see somebody that they said doesn't talk. Okay. He was all over the place, scatter everywhere, laughing. And so I looked at the wife. While we're having this conversation, I was looking at the wife. And I was making hi to her, say, this man you say you're not talking. Is he not talking now? In other words, so it looks like they actually not, maybe she's not talking about the things that, is interested in. So they have to find a common ground on the patterns, on the things that they need to talk about. But I don't believe that people don't talk. It may be that we're not saying the things that they want to hear, or we don't know how to say it, or maybe something that happened previously in the way we communicated. So the person has learned to maintain their distance so that they don't, continue to rock the boat. So there's nothing wrong with having those beautiful conversations. What I think will happen most of the time is when you present your common issues consistently, it may tend to nagging. Okay, it may tend to nagging. So you don't push beyond certain level. Again, some people think that some issues are just they're just not necessary. Okay, I would ask you to hold on until that issue becomes, like you said, it became an issue. If it became an issue much later, then you now use that opportunity and say, see, this is the reason why I want us to have these conversations, because this. I have intentionally been avoiding this because you always want this and want this and want this. Why do I want this? It's so that I can clear it. So you state your fact. The Bible says, come, let us reason together. Okay. Now, does it mean that they will change? Maybe not. But if you do a proper analysis and a proper explanation, you will gain some point, you make some point and gain some advantage, and maybe later, okay, the person can say, okay, so what do you think? Let's have this conversation, okay? So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that maybe the way you need to say it, or if it's not going now, you look for time when you have the opportunity of using, whatever the outcome of those experiences, and say, see, this is what I'm saying, and have this conversation. Another thing I think is also important is let communication be, let it not be about trying to resolve an issue. And sometimes it's just about gisting. Let's just do a lot of gisting. Okay. When a person doesn't like too much gist, because there are people like that, they don't like to talk. You're giving them gist, you're bothering them. That kind of person, you're going to have a little bit of issues with them when it comes to certain things. Okay, so if you can't change a person, then you have to learn to adapt, to ways of looking for how to better work with them. Okay, but I think with those two options, it will help you significantly. So don't push it too much. Try to use an experience to explain why you wanted some of this conversation to happen. I also don't want to assume that sometimes there are some issues, the details may not be, some men don't like too much details, and they don't like too much details. So what it means is just give your information. When you want to go around and go around, a woman will naturally go around until she comes to a particular place. While the man says, so what is it? Say it, And so somewhere along the line, you will have to learn to adapt to him in such a way that he doesn't always, rubbish your point, because you're able to make your point faster. It will mature you, okay, in the process. And I also expect that it will also alter him also slightly, so that we can both now come to a middle ground where communication can happen effectively. I hope that helps.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other question?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, my question is, so I was in a program between Friday and Saturday. So the instructor there was saying that I just want to have a balance regard to how much you can tell your spouse and what not to tell your spouse. And you said we can share everything. And what that instructor was saying that for someone going into ministry, it's not everything that you can tell your spouse. There's some things that will have to die with you, that have to go with you to the grave. So I just want to balance to what extent can you not share for someone that is going into ministry? What can't you share? What can't you not share? And
Right.
if we are supposed to share everything with our spouse, so why the limitation? Why should there be a barrier?
Okay, thank you, Alice. Again, I strongly believe that people grow into certain responsibilities and certain roles. A man is first of all husband, okay, and husband is Lord. Okay, so once he marries, he becomes the head of that union. He may not necessarily be the leader. Leadership is a different, thing from headship. Just like we think politicians are leaders, they are not. They are just politicians. Okay, so we ascribe leadership to them. It's the same thing. So a man, as he grows in his responsibilities and his roles and his maturity, he tends to wield the influence over time with his wife. Any man who assumes that he suddenly becomes the influencer is wrong. When you marry a girl whose father is a brilliant, respected man, the man is still the influence until you, until you take on some responsibilities and some leadership role and play a very, very important role that she now see, oh, okay. So don't assume that she's just going to transfer that leadership to you. Yeah, you are the head. That's why a lot of women, it's their pastor that is still their leader. It's one person that's the leader, not the husband, because the man has not grown into leadership. It's the same thing. I will ask people to manage information that they give to their partner if they are not mature enough to handle it. Okay, it's handling information is about maturity. Okay, the capacity. When a person has developed capacity, then you know that this person can handle more information, and then we can give the person more information. Very, very important. So if that is not happening, then there's a bit of issue. The truth is, yeah, in some cases there are information that you will take to the grave that you never give because it can destroy a person. Let me give a practical example. And so maybe an affair happened between a man and someone else's wife. Okay, the man has repented now. The person is born again. He's changed. He now loves God. He wants to go and tell the husband or the woman, sir, I'm sorry. I had an affair with your wife. It's going to destroy the marriage. Okay, so what needs to happen is just keep that information to himself. Pastors and counselors have the opportunity of managing a lot of information. Okay, lots of information that you are never going to divulge because they were given to you trust. Don't assume that your husband will always give you all the information or your wife will always give you all the information. And because sometimes they are checking you out if you are able to manage the information. The information that will destroy you if you hear them. Okay, it will never leave you the same way. And so the question is, what benefits? Having that information, what benefit will it lead to? Okay, even though I don't subscribe to having secrets in relationship, but the truth is, you must first of all show yourself trustworthy that you can handle certain information, or else we think this person must be given information. It may destroy. Sometimes it's the person, not the event. So maybe I have an affair with someone now. And my wife is not that strong. She can't handle infidelity or trust issues. Guess what? She may become depressed, become health case, suicidal. Anything can happen by just giving that information. Meanwhile, if you had made peace, you have made restitution with God, you moved on, you shut down all those relationships, you are now firm with God, you are not faithful. So why? The truth is, if she can handle it, oh yeah, babe, this didn't happen. But if she can't handle it, you do more destruction, than help her. So sometimes that needs to happen. So people need to grow, in ability to manage information because not all information you can handle. Sometimes I tell you something about one brother. Okay, me and the brother are at peace now. So it's just like a man and his wife. They have a fight. And let me use a very practical example. Very practical example that I've handled. So this woman was unfaithful. Okay, she was unfaithful to her husband. Something happened, and then she was vulnerable, and it happened. So she was the one who told her husband because she was trying to make peace. This thing happened, and was, you know, during those very weak and low moments when they were very vulnerable. Crazy things happen anyway. And she told her husband, guess what? I would expect the husband to look at the issue, calm down, and you know, he went and splashed the news all over the place, told all the families, told the siblings, told the parents, because he was angry. Okay, so what did the woman do? She just packed her load and said, thank you. And guess what? 6 months after, he was begging everybody to help him bring back his wife. Question is, if you can handle your wife, because what she told me was, so how the people that you have destroyed me before, how are they going to look at me? That relationship is never going to remain the same. That's a very practical example. A practical example that I handled. As we speak, they are separated. They are separated. So that's the thing. So if you knew, I would expect that you give that information to a counselor and they help you. You are hungry, frustrated, but eventually, once the person thinks through you, and then, you know, make peace. All right. And then they can come back and have that union. That's the crease between the two of them. But once you splash it, nobody's going to take that. No family member. Even if you move past it, the siblings are going to judge you on that. The parents of your partner are going to judge you on that. There are other people that the news has filtered to. All sorts. You know, I have a lot of people secret with me, but they are secret. They have to be there. Okay, it's confidentiality that I show, and then you help them and nurture them and guide them in the right way, and they make progress. They make progress. So that's, I hope that answers your question. Information is not given automatically. People grow into it. People must hand it. You must hand the trust, and then you can get more access to more. Okay, so let me take this online one. Good evening. Thank you, sir, for this lecture. My question is this: there is an ideology that is not right for someone to talk about family issues with your spouse. That our spouses should not know about our family weakness, that our spouse will surely mock us regarding our family issues. What do you think? How true is it? Again, like I said, it's just the level of maturity. Because I can give you information that you use against me later. So not only family, so many other information. There was a couple I counseled several years ago. The lady had abortion, 1 or 2 abortions before she got married. Okay? And so 5 years now, they're trusting God for the child, and it's not happening. Guess what? She had told her husband about the abortion. And somewhere along the line, I don't know what happened. The guy told me, the guy is a top executive, they're fine now. Thank God for God's intervention. The guy said, he doesn't, that is mentioned it to his mother. His own mother, that your mother that you know doesn't really like your wife. And mama came and put up drama in the house. So anyway, so that was it. So she was planning to exit. So one of these days she went to doctors, and the doctor said, see, you are the one that is coming to do test. Bring your husband, let's do test. Because we can't see anything wrong with you. 5 years, the man never followed. Because they assume, because she's done pregnancy, she's aborted pregnancy before. Long and short, the man showed up, and the man who had weak sperm count. When she received that news, she felt justified to leave her marriage. That was when she came to me. The rest is story today, because he apologized, he begged, again, it's one of those things. And they have 2 or 3 kids now. Okay, they have 2 or 3 kids. So I think it's the capacity that people develop to use information that is given to them. Information is powerful, especially if it's used well. It can be destructive when it's not properly used. So that's what I think. So you must be able to handle information, or else it's going to destroy. It can lead to destruction. So I think that answers your question, my dear. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for your opportunity again. I just had an argument with my husband before the session started. We didn't reach any conclusion. In fact, it's leading to a serious fight. The last time we had an argument like that, it's not a nice experience at all. For the past months now, I notice every issue gets to him, and he had a request for intimacy between us. If I don't ask, he won't. I count up to 5 times this year. I told him there are repercussions, but he believes I'm the only one who will bear it. it doesn't affect him. Maybe we need a session with you. I know is he listening, is here listening. That's why I send this to you. Okay. Okay, again, see, we will always have issues to talk about. Guys, we will always have issues. I've been married for 20-something years. We still had issues we're talking about. Me and my wife sometimes don't speak in the house for 2-3 days. I'm telling you. So we will always have issues. Okay, so what is important? Let me tell you this powerful rule. I didn't mention it, I forgot to mention it. And it applies in communication and applies in conflict resolution. Very important rule. See, one person must be willing to bail the cat. And the person who bails the cat is the more mature person in the relationship. One person must take responsibility. So what it means is that based on this drama that's happened in your home, okay, sweetheart, I'm sorry. What's going on? Where are we? Where we are today? What's going on? What's happening to us? You know, you come with that tempo, that beautiful low tempo. There's something it does. Okay, it disarms, it de-escalates whatever the issue is, and look for the perfect timing. Now, whoever is making that decision, please note, whoever is making that, is initiating this conversation, is entirely responsible for the whole process. Why did you make that move? It's because you wanted peace. So anyway the matter goes, you will not allow it to go out of control because of the objective that you set at the beginning. What do I mean? So I'm the one that wants peace. So if I reach out to you and you just scatter and fire, I'll come down and beg you because I'm the one that is making the move. If I say you too, we're crazy, we have not achieved anything. So what it means is that you who is taking that responsibility will take responsibility, will come down and take responsibility for the entire process. So even if things want to spill out of control, you still control yourself. You beg. See, it doesn't diminish you. It doesn't make you weak. It just shows that you're more mature, you're more magnanimous. Okay, so that's what needs to happen. So one person will need to start that conversation. Babe, how did we get here? Kilo Shele, what is the issue? Why are we having this problem? I'm sorry, but what's the way forward? What do you think? This is what I'm trying to say. Is this what you're saying? That's all. Somewhere along the line, we're going to make headways. Simple. I'm going to make headway. So if you don't achieve it that night, you may achieve it another night. So sometimes you may not work in one day, it may work the second day, but you don't give up. You keep making effort. Now, when you make effort more than 3 or 4 times and it's not making progress, then you may need to reach out to a counselor. Someone that you both trust, not a family member who can help you broker. So that standard rule that I gave you is the same thing in conflict resolution. Both couple are fighting, one person must start that conversation, and the person is responsible for the entire conversation. It's the same thing. When I want to communicate with you, I want to have a conversation with you. Once I'm starting the conversation, I'm responsible for the entire process till I achieve my objective at the end of that process. So that should help. So have that conversation, and it will help you, make progress. Okay, so I'm going to unmute someone, but let me quickly, in a situation where you got married and later discovered that your husband has a child outside wedlock, you got to hear about it from other people and not your husband. How do you handle it? So conversation, talk. The truth sometimes is because someone is afraid to tell you the truth. It's unfortunate that you had it from outside, but you need to confront him with that issue, and he needs to tell you the entire thing. So if it's before marriage, okay, it's a different thing. If it's outside of wedlock, it's also another different thing entirely. Again, except he's interested in the woman, and there's no progress that it can be. Okay. So that's what I think. That's what I think. Okay. So you need to have that conversation with him. Some people are remorseful, some people are not remorseful. Okay, and I pray that this man is not the kind that is not remorseful. Bible says that God will pray. Apostle Paul say, pray for me that God will deliver me from wicked and unreasonable men, because not all men are of faith. Okay. I am not quick to judge when someone has that kind of situation, maybe child outside of wedlock. I want to hear the facts. And sometimes people need to know that your partner just want to hear what happened. Not that he or she wants to judge you. he or she wants to know what exactly happened. Okay, so once we have all the information, maybe it gets better. It's a lot easier to manage, but it gets better. Okay, so but it gets tiring if it is that one person that always takes responsibility. Yes, it does. It just shows that this person is a baby. That's just what it shows. Unfortunately, you marry the baby. Okay, so what it means is that you have to grow up quickly, or else it's going to impact negatively on the relationship. That's what it means. Yeah, so if you are the one that's always making peace, you are the one that's always taking responsibility. Somewhere along the line, don't get tired, okay, or else you get a point where a breaking point, and then you can't handle it again. Again, does it now lead to indulgence? That's another thing entirely, because then you may need to have that conversation and say, see, I have been doing this, I've been doing this, I've been doing this. I don't think it's right. See, I just believe in appealing to reason. Appealing to reason. Yeah, some people may not know what they are doing is wrong. Several years ago, my wife will feed me, do everything. I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. Now, why? Because I don't have. Doesn't mean that I should not go and struggle and get. That's some of the excuse that people give. Okay, so I just assume. When things started changing, it was my wife that now say, things are better now. Start shaking body. That's all. So sometimes people get used to certain things, and it can impact, the way it impacts on the dynamics of the relationship. Okay, it can be tiring, but it's one of those ways you can make progress. Okay, okay. So someone is raising their hands up. I don't know here.
So I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for such sumptuous analysis. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. Okay, also I have over 3 questions, and the first one, I just go directly to the point. The first one is, at what point do you establish the fact that you know your relationship partner enough to get to ask her to marry you, like to go ahead and pop the question? At what point do you establish the fact that you know your relationship partner enough to get to ask her to marry you? Is there a scale to which you can measure how much you know this person and the willingness you feel you now have to want to build life with this person? That's the first question. The second one is, how do you deal with extreme fragility in a relationship or marriage when you have a partner who is super fragile, below normal level? How do you deal with such extreme fragility? Because I've seen cases, and I won't mention.
That's scary. So when someone's so fragile, so that's scary. Again, we have different levels of capacity. I'll start.
So I have one more question.
Oh, okay. So that I don't forget. Okay. Go on. Let me hear the last one.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Hello,
what's
sir.
The last one? I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm not the easily sharing type. I can engage in communication. We can talk and have fun and all of that. But telling you about my dealings, like especially in business, explaining to you about profits and stuff in a relationship, I'm not the type that shares such information too easily. Okay. So I don't know. And then of course, my girl will always complain, you don't tell me things, don't tell me things. So I want to ask, do I have a problem by doing that? Not sharing so much about my own personal dealings and stuff. So that's the third question.
All right, so let's take it from the second question, the fragile. Quite a lot of people are fragile. And it's just based on their experiences in life. Okay, 2 things. The person needs help because life is not a rocking chair or cushion chair. Life is hard, so they need to grow up and they need to be healed and go and learn how to deal with life. That's number one. So for you who wants to settle down with someone who is fragile, there's a big issue. Can you handle the person? Okay, that's the question. Because now it's not within your control. It's this other person's issues. And you can give it your best shot and try everybody, almost kill yourself. And it looks like you're not doing anything. Okay, so can you handle that kind of a person? That's the first thing. So not people fragile, people are hard, people have different experiences, different disposition, but ultimately, I think to a large extent, your response and your disposition is what's going to impact you. Can see, one of the things I've also found out is that there are some people you will never be able to change. Or, in fact, you don't really change anyone. Okay? You can't change anyone. Okay, so the important thing is what's your level of tolerance? What can I handle? How can I deal with these issues? See, there are relationships that are so very difficult that for that relationship to make progress, the one person will literally have to lose their identity, become somebody else for that relationship to survive. That's some relationships like that. Okay, so let's not take risk. If so, look at what's your definition of fragility. I mean, that's another thing entirely. But if this person is overtly sensitive, very fragile, and then it means the person is super sensitive. Anything you do, that it can lead to a lot of insecurities in the person. So lots of the first class session we had, the self-discovery. Okay, so that's one of those things that needs to happen, so that you don't go and start a journey that you cannot finish. That's one. Number two. This first question, which is the issue of at what point do you know if a person meets again? I think we all have some kind of expectation or a box that we tick when we connect with people. Okay, so I have my preferences in a woman. That's certain things I look out for. Okay, so a man must have those things. A woman must have those things. And along with your prayer and the Holy Spirit guiding you, that's how you know what is what. So beauty is one of the things that attracts. And let me make this clear. There was a reason why God talked about the beauty of Sarah. Just in case you didn't know, there was a reason why he talked about the beauty of Leah. He talked about the beauty of Rachel. He talked about the beauty of those women. Deliberately, Bible noted it. In fact, gave description their beauty. This one has the kind of eye. This one is this one is beautiful. To the extent that when Sarah was almost 70 plus, 60 plus, 70, growing to 70, there was a king that saw her and still wanted to marry her at 60 plus. Just in case you didn't see it in the Bible. When they wanted to take his, was it Abimelech that wanted to take his wife? She was not a baby. She was not a young girl. She was a grown-up woman, even though she didn't look her age. And that's one of those things. The more kids that you have, the more likely that it impacts your facial, your physique, your outlook. Very important. Children rearing often impact negatively on the, on women. Okay, so when women don't have kids, and some of them still do cohabit, together and all that. So she was not young. Okay, so you must have this requirement, but along with those requirements, which I think God does also not, discard, because God knows I like this kind of woman. He knows I like this kind of woman. Okay, so oftentimes, it helps guide me towards, making that preference, because I cannot always be stuck with a woman that I don't feel attracted to. Okay, that's one of those things. And sometimes some people don't have preference. Okay, so you must have a preference. What's that preference? Which one do you want? And then let that guide you with the help of the Holy Spirit. Once you're sure or not sure, then you look into your spiritual network and ask them to pray along with you to make that decision. Okay, that's what I think. And the last question, which is how much do you give? How much information do you give? Again, that's one of the things that is important. The only person that needs to know is your wife. If she's not your wife, she should hold on until you're married. Okay, so and when you're married, okay, let her also grow into it. If she's not married yet, let her hold on. Okay, depending on her involvement and her contribution that's making, then maybe you may need to give some information. If she's really helping you, she's helping you, making impact in your business or whatever, then she needs to know a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with you. There will be issues when you are intentionally hiding, certain things. So again, it may not be in the nature to want to freely give information. I also don't, suggest that, but let people grow information once they are trustworthy and they are able to give counsel and help you maintain some measure of balance. Then it means that the more information they have, the more objective, the more robust the idea and their suggestion. Okay, that needs to happen. Okay, I hope that answers your question. But okay, all right. So any other question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have another question.
Okay.
My question is, how do you help a spouse that that is not that expressive and is also not that romantic? And when it comes to love making, he doesn't really know how to express himself in terms of filling the woman's love tank, and
making a demand later.
So at the end of the day, when you get to that point, it's looking like it's just do what you want to do. Let me go away. I'm tired. I just have to, because I can't starve you, But that mutual understanding is not there. So it's usually not given much emotionally to the woman, and not reaffirming his love to the woman. How can the spouse help that kind of man?
Wow.
Because she's really concerned and she really wants to help him.
Okay. Wow. So that's a tough one. The truth is two things. Sometimes it's a personality issue. Sometimes it's just ignorance. Personality issue or ignorance. Personality issue in the sense that, see, there's nothing you're going to do about it. This is the person this is the person you married. The other dimension, which is ignorance, is maybe if this person knows more, the person can change. So I would first of all want us to explore. So what kind of a person is this man? If you look at him very well, does he look like he's teachable? Can he learn? Okay, some people will learn for 1 week and forget for the next 1 month or 2 months until you call their attention back to it. And some people are quickly able to make adjustment and stick with that new adjustment. Sometimes that's what it works. So if it's a personality thing, you probably will not be able to change the person much. What do you now do in that case? You reconcile yourself with the facts of your relationship. That's a tough place to be. Let me give a classic example. So a man who likes big breast and married a woman who has small breast, there's nothing he's going to do about it. Reconcile yourself with that fact and settle down. So asking her to do this, well, you will just push her beyond the bounds. You reconcile yourself with that fact. It's not going to change. There's nothing you're going to do about that. So I think that's the way it is. So some husbands may never be romantic. They may not. So what I would recommend is, after you come to terms with that, now you may need to take on that responsibility, okay, and initiate it and suggest it in very nice ways, okay, and then communicate it in a very loving way, okay. When next you want to have that intimacy, you don't fight. You suggest it. You introduce it, you bring it, because now you need to take responsibility for it. That's what it means. You need to take responsibility for it. You will have a problem if he doesn't accept it, if it's just like that, and then that will be a different thing entirely. Okay. But if I think men, once they are women to be, they can initiate it and initiate processes and romance. Some men want it. It's just that I know that it's women who wants men to do it to them. But if your husband is not like that, then you must come to terms with that option. Okay, so that needs to happen. Again, let's settle down something. So if it's something that he can learn, fantastic, beautiful. But if it's something that he cannot learn, it's a big one. It's a big one. So that there's not. So maybe you will need additional counsel. But again, question I'm asking is, how many couples are really reading and improving the dynamics of the relationship? Because these things don't happen. So first thing is, people making career moves and doing courses, they're improving the dynamic, everything about their life, but they really never invest in the relationship. They just expect the relationship to get better. See, you're married now, please listen, this is very important. You should read a book about marriage every year, one every year, you and your spouse. Now, somebody will say, what's pastor talking? That's rubbish. We don't have time. As you lay your bed. That's all. And if your spouse will not, you read. And sometimes bring it, bring the ideas. Have that conversation around the idea. But the longer you're married, the more books you should read, the more you should expose yourself, your knowledge, and get better. Because see, it gets to a point where it becomes rusty. There's no new excitement. You have to learn to reintroduce excitement. Powerful relationships that they love each other, everything's powerful. And sometimes they get to that point where everything just play too. How much more relationships that are struggling? That's the thing. So that's why refresher course in marriage and all that can help a lot. Honestly, it does help a lot. And I think it's the reason why we're having some of this conversation. So we can remind the husbands to remain romantic and continue to bring, new ideas to relationship, and wives also to remain, fresh and, beautifully inclined towards their relationship. I hope that answers the question. So it's a question of personality. If you marry the man who is not given to that, I'm sorry, there's going to be a little struggle. So, but what do? You take some measure of responsibility and, do a little bit more, create the romantic environment. For example, you may need to wow him one day. After that experience, tell him how you want it done. So don't be too shy about it. Let's do it this way. Come up with, have these, you prepare the food, it comes back, you welcome in a nice way, you go to the bathroom, buy a beautiful laundry, underwear, something that enticing, and let him wonder what's going on, okay? And I hope that experience, is beautiful. After it's beautiful, then have a conversation about it, that how do we sustain this? That way, I think it can help you a lot. But if it's not making progress, then maybe you need to talk to a counselor to help you. Sometimes talking about issues very early can help matters before people are set in their ways, and it becomes more difficult to make those adjustments. I hope that helps. So I think our time is fast spent. And I hope we've answered all the questions here. Okay, I'm not sure there's any other matter that I want us to. All right. Again, I thank you all very much for making our time to be here. Thank you so much. We hope we can do this again. Again, it's such a blessing to connect with us and to be able to make one or two contributions to building a fantastic relationship. Please keep working on your marriage. Marriage is work. It's hard work. Any marriage that you see that's working, it's someone working it. Okay, it's a whole lot of work. It's a whole lot of labor, and do the work. At some point, you will do less work, and then your marriage can begin to enjoy. So if your marriage is young, please, guys, do a lot. Okay, like I've always emphasized, with counsel, you can create a lot of stability in marriages. Yes. So don't marry without counsel. If you are not married yet, don't marry. Don't risk it. Don't risk it. That love that you feel now, by the time they wire you well, your eyes go clear. Put things in place, do a proper job. Let it be known. Make it obvious to your partner that, see, this is life for me. It's important, not that crazy to just want to go into marriage. Because that's what people, they say they are crazy, are married, they love each other. Everywhere is getting clingy. Before you know it, things just spin out of control. Okay, that's one of the things, I see a lot in relationships. So let's do that. And I pray that God will continue to uphold our marriages, uphold that union. Your marriage will not fail. Your marriage will not falter. Your marriage will not suffer. I ask that God himself will breathe the wisdom of God in your marriage. God will give us the grace to build our home. Each home is a peculiar, agenda, a peculiar plan in the mind of God. None of us will miss it. We will not fail. We will not falter. Those who are trusting God for their own life partner, God will guide you. God will instruct you. God will give you your bone of bone, flesh of flesh. You will not marry someone else's spouse in the name of Jesus. And I pray that homes here, they will be supernaturally sustained. Those who are trusting God for fruit of the womb, God will visit you. God will visit your home. And I declare fruitfulness round about you. Any marriage going through issues and tensions, I declare that the power of the Lord will breathe upon your home and calm every storm. Your home is a Christian home. I therefore declare Christ is planted there and his peace will dwell in your home. God will calm the mind of husbands and wives, and God will fill your home with joy and with peace in the name of the Lord Jesus. And I pray that you that have issues with your husband or your wife, God will touch his heart. God himself will reach out to him. And God will bring him in contact with grace that will help him make the right changes. In Jesus' marvelous name, we have prayed. Amen. Thank you so very much for being here. God
Thank you,
bless
sir.
you. God bless
Thank you so much, sir, for this
you.
opportunity.
All right.
God bless you, sir.
Thank
Love you
you
so much. God bless you. Thank you, really.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
thank
God
you,
bless
thank
you, sir.
you.
Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, PT. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.